All right, here we go.
What's good, everybody? I'm Robert Dickens Jr.
This is Ryan Reed.
This is Elanders Frazier.
This is John Gaal, and you're listening to Volta.
Changing the conversation
For percussion educators,
designers,
and performers.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Volta Percussion. This is Season 3, Episode 5. I am here with Robert Dickens Jr., Elanders Frazier, and John Gaal. And today's episode, we're going to talk about some random thoughts. Just things that we got going on in our programs or in our brain that we want to spill out to each other. Should be exciting, because we're not really scripting anything today. So, could also get very interesting.
That's what my bet is on.
Needless to say.
Right.
But I think before we get started on our random thoughts, I think Elanders has a teaching tip or a design moment for us today.
Yeah, so teaching tip. If you find yourself in the position, I'm going to talk to the audience here. If you find yourself in the position where you are unable to be present for your ensemble, then you may have to rearrange things. And here's the thing. Life comes with all kinds of challenges. I am no stranger to that. I understand that, life does come with all kinds of challenges, but I also think that there is a sense of just awareness that you have to have on a personal standpoint to know that if you are unable, then you have to find an alternate solution, right? Because, with the gig of teaching, educating, even designing, right? If you know that you are in a position to where you can't contribute, then don't. And I feel like this is going to come back to bite me. Like, I'm terrified. I'm going to be like trying to write something this year. I'm going to be like, damn, I can't finish it. No, but if you're this awareness, right? Look, see what I'm doing here? But like, if you're in a position to not be able to handle that load, then find a way to either share that load, or pass that baton on. You know what I mean? And there's no shame in passing the baton on because, I definitely felt like I've been in situations before where, I knew that my responsibilities were getting too great and, I could not meet the expectation level that I had set up for the group, And I think that's the biggest thing is like, if you have set up an expectation for the group and then you don't meet it yourself, it's problematic. If you have not set up the expectation for the group, then I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like, maybe it's fine. Maybe if there's no expectation, then we've got no issue. But it is an issue if you are setting an expectation and then you don't meet it yourself. So, you can't be hypocritical in your words and your actions if you're setting an expectation but then don't meet it yourself. Maybe it's time to do something else. That's my teaching tip. Okay?
Yikes.
Didn't want to stay on it too long.
So essentially that boils down to crap or get off the pot.
I'm just saying, like you don't necessarily have to, you don't necessarily have to, come in and make a grand, thing about it. It's just being aware enough to say, hey, this is what's going on. This is all that I can contribute at this moment. And then share that with everybody else so that everybody is aware, But if nobody's aware, then all it does is create tension and stress amongst individuals. And you can't function as a group when you're trying to do that. You know what I mean? It's like being on a job and you see, people not pulling their weight, or I say a group project, right? Everybody's had that quote unquote group project where it's one person that just shows up to the meeting, don't do a damn thing. And then, everyone's like the group makes its own group chat. They're like, why so ain't ever they don't ever submit nothing. They never get anything in on time, but then we all get a B. They get the B too. Why they get the B? They ain't do nothing. You know what I'm saying? We can't be doing group projects as adults and somebody ain't showing up to the group meetings or not sending in their part of the group. Like if you're gonna say, "Oh yeah, I got the PowerPoint. Don't worry about it," but then you don't send the PowerPoint, and then somebody else got to make the PowerPoint at the last minute. It's messed up. You know what I'm saying? That's all. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to talk about it too much, y'all.
Listen,
No, but I think that's
No, go ahead, Ryan.
No, I think that's a good point, and probably a random thought too that I've had of like we got to be mindful that as the adults in the room, that our decisions and our actions affect other people, not just ourselves, you know. And we kick our students' butts because, you know, unlike sports, there's no bench at a lot of these programs. At every program that I teach at, like every kid's a starter. Mm-hmm. You can play or you can't play. You either put points on the board or you take points off the board, you know. And we as adults do the same thing. Like we don't keep a bench of people to sub in. We don't feel like going to rehearsal or you're not able to get done what you said to get done. And I've noticed it a lot on my social media feed of adults that make decisions that put other things behind, and then we get frustrated with our kids because now all of a sudden they got to learn faster.
Talk to them.
The adults just got to work faster sometimes. Like, I get it. I wrote 12 marching band shows or 10 marching band shows this fall. And it's been the busiest fall I've done. And I did 4 weeks of tour and I did 3 straight weeks of band camp. So that's 7 straight weeks of like tour and band camp, and still had all 10 shows done. Like never once had a group reach out to me and was like, "Hey, we need this right away." Unless somebody else dropped the ball and they're like, "Hey, is there any chance that we can," like, I got a text from one group that was like on a Monday that said, "Hey, I know we just got the ballad done from the Winter Ranger. Is there a way that you can get us the stuff by Thursday?" Yeah. So I dropped it because they needed it, but that's not my fault. They needed it in 3 days. I just had to get the job done because they needed it. So I think there's got to be some of that mindfulness. And I'm not saying that we need to upend our lives in order to do that and cause chaos in our own lives, but we got to plan for our lives and then respect the lives of other people in that planning. So that way, you know, the decisions that one person makes isn't putting somebody else up against a deadline or putting a group up against a deadline. I've watched, you know, a number of people that I talk to that are like, "Yeah, I missed this deadline because so-and-so missed this deadline and so-and-so missed this deadline." And it's like, we put people in bad situations in life, in band, in everything when we're like, I'll worry about it later. Or, it's my job, but.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I was going to say, when you said that, I could immediately think of like 3 conversations I've had this year already about the fact that we didn't get an arrangement of something on time in order for us to start arranging as percussion arrangers.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Like, why is that still happening?
I think part of it is honestly COVID, because I had a conversation with a couple different program coordinators that were like trying to track down people, and like people just took the year off last year or like worked at their own pace or whatever because it was COVID. Nobody was really in a hurry. You know, I felt it. There was no accountability on terms of like, you know, we're competing, so we need it by this deadline to make sure that we learn it by this. Everything was like, we'll learn a whole show. We'll learn part of a show. We'll learn a movement. We'll just teach the kids, which was awesome. And that's what we had to do to survive COVID. But now that we're back in like, hey, it's go time, some people still aren't on go time. Mm-hmm. So I think honestly that had a lot to do with that. And that's not an excuse. That's just a reason why people may have dropped the ball.
In addition, to add on to Ryan's point with COVID, I do know, at least with my school, because of COVID, we didn't know how many kids we were actually going to have in band for this upcoming season. So we didn't send while we had the music, we didn't get our drill until the 2nd or 3rd week of band camp. just because we didn't know who's going to show up. And even once school started, and we had some additional students. Fortunately, not fortunately. That sounds like no one wanted to join band. But you know, I mean, like with better programs around the country, I'm sure more kids joined band once school started. Like, where do you put those kids? You can't throw them in the show now, otherwise you have to rewrite all the drill.
Fair.
So I do know this year is probably just is a different year from a drill writing standpoint.
I'm gonna put this solely in one particular place. I feel that most high schools don't have a proper program coordinator who's cracking the whip and causing people to get things done on time.
I have a question on that, Rob. Do
Go
you
ahead.
believe the program coordinator should be someone outside the band organization, or should it be the head band director of the school?
I would say I feel like it's more advantageous for the program coordinator to be someone who's supervising the design process or the production timeline, but not someone who's actually designing. That's not to say that they can't be, but it's easier to hold everyone else accountable when you're creating the timeline and you don't have that personal connection with, oh, okay, well, I'm going to give you some more pages tomorrow. And it's like the day before band camp, and at 12:30, the drill guy sends you, 6 pages of drill. And it's like, hey, if you like this, let me know. I can send you some more. I had a band have that happen this year, and it was bad. And I'm not going to say who the person was. Since it's random thoughts, I am going to be a little petty and say that it was a well-known visual drill writer. But that's not the way to do things. You know what I mean? But again, if you don't have someone who's not attached to the creative side of it and is just running the logistical side of it, there has to be, to me, in my opinion, since the person said that they were going to have drill by a certain time, there should have been someone who has the authority to say, okay, it is now this date. We're supposed to have drill by now, and we're 2 weeks from band camp. I am going to pull the plug, and we need to find another way to get this done. We need to find another person, or we need to consider some type of alternative route rather than the entire program now being almost at a standstill because there's no drill, because it's now band camp and that person's told you, oh, okay, I'm going to give you some more. Oh, okay, I'm going to give you some more. Oh, okay, I'm going to give you some more. And then they never give you anything. I mean, I feel like who's the person pushing the button saying, like, no, we need to go with someone else?
Yeah. I think this kind of goes back to Ryan's point too. Like, yes, there has been a lot of stuff that we've all had to deal with. But at the same time, if you say you're going to do something and get it done ultimately. You know what I mean? I will fall on my own sword and say that I know I can get behind when I have a thorough idea of where I want to head with something. And I'm not saying that I'm not saying anyone's immune to it is what I'm saying. It's like everyone has been in that situation to where like things come up, things are happening, things come up. But I feel like if you're in that situation and then you don't deliver in a major way, that's where it's like, like I know I've been in that situation. It's been like, I know I'm a little bit behind, but I'm dropping as much as I can get out to you, with what I had, you know what I mean? But to your point, when it's delay, and then all you get is a cracker, bro, I can see if you're a couple weeks behind and then like you drop like the first 2 movements. I've had drill designers that have done that it's just been like, hey, I'm working. I haven't had the ability to get, but I'm working on your behalf. And then like band camp day comes and they drop the first 2 movements. And then it's like, okay, I'm working on part 3 now. I wanted to make sure that I had everything in the right direction for you. You know what I mean? But the whole like, I'm behind. Here's 3 pages. 6 pages. Tell me what you think. Like, bro, we gonna have this learned in the first 2 days.
Straight up. That's
Unless you sending them pages Tuesday night. Like,
dog.
that ain't.
Dog. That's what's like. To me, that's what's so upsetting is that, especially, I don't know. I think there are a lot of schools that they could be more successful. They don't need to rehearse anymore. They don't need to, maybe they need to get better instructors, but time is usually not a factor. It's just the planning is not good. Mm-hmm. The planning is not good enough for those students to get significantly better. You know what I mean? There are some people that rehearsal technique wise, they can take those 3 hours and they can get way more done than another group because their rehearsal planning is like A1. So, hold on. Is someone like on the phone? Is someone calling me? Okay. I was like, hello?
We have a caller in right now.
we got our very first call into the Volta Percussion. Go ahead, caller 1. Okay, you hung up. Okay. Nah, but for real, like I feel like that's a big part of it. Like you gotta have someone that says, okay, we gotta get this done by this time. If this doesn't happen by this time, I'm gonna come up with an alternative solution. And I do agree, John. I feel like the best person that's suited to do that is, hopefully, if they're good at it logistically, is the head band director. Might be the assistant band director. You know what I mean? But someone that has a personal stake in the end product, but maybe they're not necessarily contributing all of the little pieces to the creative process.
Would you still hold that statement of either the head band director needs to be the program coordinator, or hiring a program coordinator for groups that buy package bundle deals of programs already written out?
I would say no, not unless that person is not good at rehearsal planning. If the show's already, if it's a pre-written show and they already know, like the effects are already written in there, then I don't really see why they would need a program coordinator unless you need someone to like really produce all of the effects that are in there and give you more ideas to flesh it all out. Or if you need someone that, hey, can you show me how to structure my rehearsals so that I can get this much done by this time? Because some people aren't really good at that. You know what I mean? There are a lot of marching arts people that are very good at that. They got a million spreadsheets, got stuff, like they know how to move stuff together. But to me, if you're buying a box show, if you're not bad at rehearsal techniques and you know how to rehearsal plan, I don't see why you need a program coordinator.
I would agree with that. I feel like if it's all completed in a package, then I feel like that itself is already contained in order for you to move the product forward. Like someone else at that point could be problematic in a sense to where they're adding unneeded stress to a situation that doesn't need to be as stressful. You know what I'm saying? Unless whoever's at the helm is a space cadet and can't do it. I will say, like, that's something to be aware of. When I say earlier, it's about awareness. If you know you're that space cadet, maybe you should have somebody else playing that out. I feel like I'm a space cadet in moments. I feel like I have my ultimate moments of just like, yo, E is in Jupiter right now. Ain't nowhere near the planet Earth, feet on the ground, nothing. But I feel like I allow myself to get to that point once I have done all my planning, because that's part of how I get my headspace back. Because I feel like I'm very type A a lot of the times. But once I get all that planning out of me, my brain just goes pew, so that I can catch myself again, catch my breath again, if you will. You know what I mean? But, if you're not the person that plans in advance, it makes it very difficult for everyone else to know what's going on. Let me talk about that for just a second. If you're not the person that plans in advance, it makes it very difficult for people to know what's going on. And it's very hard to functionally run a program if nobody knows what's going on until the day that we walk into the gym.
So I want to tag one thing off of that.
Okay.
Because I 100% agree, but I also think instructional staff needs to come in with their own game plan as well. Like section techs need to have their own game plan in case you get done whatever the game plan is for the day early, or in case there's a little bit of subs time, or in case you get kicked out of a gym or kicked out of a stadium and you lost your facility that you're supposed to rehearse in. Because there's nothing more irritating than, as a director, setting out the plan and then having to alter the plan and the tech staff be like, whoa, what do I do?
I don't know what else we can
clean-
do with them right now.
Do you hear the dirty rolls in the snare feature? Clean them. I don't know. Teach the kids to play the paradiddles. Teach the kids to play the lateral strokes. Teach the kids to move their feet in time. I can think of 7 things that should be on your list, and you didn't come with any of them ready to go.
What? You don't have a rain plan as well? Come on.
I think that personal responsibility comes down on everyone, though, right? Like, everyone that's working and involved with the program should have a personal responsibility set up to say, if all else fails, we gonna do this. If everything gets shut down right now, we gonna do this. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a forward motion that is necessary for any successful program to remain successful, right? And if that forward motion gets stifled in some manner and all you can do is look up to the director for guidance, you're not a child. You're not
That also
an
means
infant.
you're killing the momentum too, because you're not a part of the push forward.
Right, exactly. If you have to wait on somebody to tell you what to do to make people better, you're probably in the wrong program space, right? You're not probably at the level that you need to be at currently to be able to instruct those types of students if you can't even contemplate what you need to do to keep making this group better. You know, like if you're lost, I would say.
People want the rewards, but they don't want to be a part of the process.
That's a big thing. Like we see that often, right? Like you see that people want to show up for the trophy ceremony, but
They want the good groups.
yeah, but they're not really to get their hands dirty. You know what I mean? Like a chef, like they want to be, at Master Chef competition, but they ain't really to get their hands dirty in a bowl of, ground beef to make the perfect burger. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, I just want to take it off the grill and rock the plate through the door. It's like, but if you ain't ready to get your hands dirty, then what's it all for? You know what I'm saying? Like, get your hands dirty a little bit. See, just see how it feels.
Just try it out.
Just try it out to see how it feels.
Just to see how it feels. I just don't. I mean, I think part of it is people not having the right personalities in the right places and not being comfortable with that too. And I, how should I say this? I feel like there are very few directors, at least band directors that I can think of, that are just as good at running a concert or symphonic rehearsal as they are running a marching band rehearsal.
Very few.
I think that the rehearsal techniques are different. I think that the approach is different. I think the micromanaging of like how everything is done in a very specific regimented way that things are done is different. And I think that, whatever team you're on, which obviously this can be difficult if you're the person coming in on the team. I feel like everybody needs to come in and say, hey, this is what I'm good at. I can do these other things, but that's not my jazz. Like, I'm cool with that. I can do it. But this, if you let me do this, I'm probably better than anyone else on the staff at doing X.
Right.
And it may be actually running the rehearsal. It may be planning things out. It may be the logistics. It may be any other thing that may not necessarily fit within the wheelhouse of what we expect for a person based on what it is that we brought them in to do. But I do think that it's to the benefit of the group to be mature enough and aware enough to say it is better for this group if I do this and let this person do that. Even if that means I'm not out front as much as people think that I would be, being the head this or the assistant that.
Ego, man. It's hard to fight that ego, though, ain't it? Like, we're talking about awareness, and part of that awareness is, are you mature enough to set your ego aside for the best product that you could possibly have, knowing everyone's strengths and weaknesses as it relates to your program, right? And if you are, then your program's probably going to benefit from it. If you're not, then it's probably going to suffer in some capacity.
Well, and sometimes it's not even strengths and weaknesses. It's as much as it is like time and availability. Like there are times where I've had to bring in other people, not because I can't do something, but because I'm needed elsewhere more. Like just about everywhere I teach, I run the front ensemble, and I've taught the battery. I've done production for indoor drum lines. Like I've done all that stuff, but I can't do all that stuff at the same time. Nobody can.
Right.
So it's like, you also got to know where your role is at in any given group and put that aside too. So it's definitely ego, I think, for a lot of people, but then there's that next step of also, there's one of you, like you got to get it done for the group, not for yourself. Even as a director, I think sometimes, like, especially percussion directors have a hard time with this, of like letting go over control of things that we can do in order to just get it done on the timeline we need it to be on, and I think we got to be so aware of that, like drop the ego, but then it's not, is it about us a little bit? Maybe, but it's mainly about the kids and getting stuff done for them. And let's be real. If you want to be competitive in a competitive activity, you have to play a little bit of catching up and keeping up with everybody else, which means you can't put yourself behind or your group behind because you want to do everything.
Right.
So.
That's really good. I definitely feel like that could be an episode within itself as it relates to growing a program, because I'm always interested to know people that have been at programs for a long time, how they were able to transition to being further away from the group than they were in the beginning. And what I mean by that is, when you're first at a group, you're probably running the basics block. You're teaching the warm-ups. You're teaching them how to fold a floor. You're teaching them all the body posture exercises, etc. And as you start to grow and you start to get more competent help, you have to start to back off of those things. So it is a little bit of, like you said, an adjustment to your ego and understanding that, okay, in order for this group to grow any further and to catch up to the other programs that I see that are great, I have to take on a different space within the program. I have to do the stuff that nobody else can do instead of doing stuff that someone else that I hired can already do.
I think people think that changes the vision, and it doesn't, right? It just lets you execute the vision with more hands available, right?
Correct.
I also think with executing the vision with more hands, if you have that awareness that you're not, certain aspects of the program or the teaching process is not your strength, and you need to bring other people in, that awareness, your next job in that regard, I believe, is to find those people that can help bolster your weaknesses. But if your excuse is you don't have the time or you don't have the money, then your job is to find that time and find that money to make those weaknesses into a strength a reality, right? You can't just be like the director and suck at whatever area you suck at, and at the same time not get out of the way for someone else to come do your job because of your ego, right? You need to realize you suck at that area, you need to always have the mentality of improving yourself and educating yourself, and whether that means watching more videos, going to conventions, bringing in other people, whatever, your job needs to be to continue to educate and find those opportunities so that you can learn, but also so that your group can improve. Don't sit on your butt. Go do your job.
There it is.
That's my PG version. That's my G version.
I dig it.
Which is kind of what you were saying at the beginning, Elanders, of the whole podcast with your teaching tip.
Mm-hmm.
Do your job.
Full circle. I like that wrap up, John.
Yeah. I think this has been a really good episode. I think, I know I've walked away with like 3 or 4 conversation ideas for another time, just based off our random thoughts here.
2.0.
2.0. So
I don't think we got everything off our chest today.
Oh, I don't
No,
think so
definitely.
either.
I think we can circle back to this when we got a little more time, for sure.
Yes, yeah. But I know some of us got to run. I got a rehearsal going on tonight, and I know we all got other commitments. So we're going to wrap it up a little early on this one. I am Ryan Reed. I'm joined by Mr. Robert Dickens, Elanders Frazier, and John Gaal. You can check us out on Instagram at Volta Percussion, and shoot us an email with any random thoughts you might have at voltapercussion@gmail.com. But we will see you guys next time.
Yeah.
Peace.
Peace.